Well, hello on this page, how to create and publish your own web magazine. Well, this is pretty exciting because I understand that creating a magazine is it's something that everybody would like to do, but it's not as complicated as it first seems to be. So I would like to offer you first, in the first chapter, a general overlook of the whole thing, and then in the chapter 2 about podcasting, because it's almost possible, and it's usually, and it's really possible to include some podcasts into your web magazine. So this makes the magazine much more interesting, and it's also amazing how things are much easier to listen and to be read into a magazine where you have multiple sources of media. So, first chapter, a general overlook on what everything is going on here. So it's about your magazine, and it's about creation, of course. Of course, you would like to have and to know what you would like to talk about. So I think that if you are here and if you are interested by having your own web magazine, it's because you really want to share something with others. You really want to publish something, and you really want to have something online about what you like. So I think you have also an idea of what you would like to create, and maybe you have the idea like a usual magazine, something about text and about images and so on. And maybe you think, well, I would like to have to work 3 weeks before having my monthly magazine up and running. No, it's not as complicated as that with a web magazine. Just because you are sharing multiple platform, multiple medias, so you can share some videos, you can share everything on a web magazine. So it's much more interesting. That's one point. And the second point is, maybe you don't know the difference between a magazine, a web magazine, and a site, an internet site. Well, with an internet site, you need to sell in a way of speaking, of course, you need to sell your site to the users. So when someone is going on the web and he wants to find something, he's just typing the words in a search engine. And if you have the site and you want to look this way, you have to be on the top of the researches on the so it's not easy. You really have to do some search engine optimization to be read by the people. And it's not the case with a web magazine, of course. Why? Because people are going to the app stores to buy magazines, to buy information. So you are already in a niche there, app stores, where the people who are coming with the intent of buying something. So they have the credit cards in hand. They are clearly minded that they won't have to buy something. So it's a totally other way of thinking your media creation. So creation, it's like you will see something much more interesting than just and only text and images. And of course you have to publish it, and publishing will be to publish through shops where the people can find your magazine. So it will be mostly app stores, and we will talk about this a bit later on. So creation is not only text and images, and that is very interesting to know, that content could be something else, could be in fact everything that you could find in a site, on a site, internet site. So why is this so important and so interesting? Because you don't have to write so many texts and to give so many ideas in just one way. you can share with the people your ideas, but with different medias. And that is very interesting, because you don't have to write a lot of things, but you just write a thing, take the same thing, put it in a video, put the same thing in a MP3, and so on. And so you have multi-audio, multimedia information that you can share with people. And now what's the most important thing in all this is that, and what I recommend, in fact, and I will recommend later on in the courses here, it's that you have to segment your information. So you have a sort of all package information, and you are just taking some bits and pieces of the old package and put it in a different medium, in a different way on the site, on your web magazine. So you put a part of it in text, images, another part in videos, and another part in MP3s, audio files. So that is very interesting, that you can have some videos, you can have some audio files, but you can also have some other things, what we call widgets on your web pages. A widget, it's a short code, a code of information that is really like a little program on your web page, on your magazine page. So what does this mean? This means that you can embed YouTube, for example, in a small frame, that you can embed also an autoresponder, for example, and much more things than that. So this all will implement the way you will see your creation process. So it will implement you to find and to maybe find a new way of create your content. And this is the very interesting point of all this. And then you have to publish all this. And well, you will have to publish, and you would like to publish, and I understand, to directories, of course. And directories, the most of the interested directory is the app stores, the app store, and you could publish there without any problem. That's the purpose of all the courses here. It's to make you understand how to publish there. Of course, I will write all this in an ebook that I will sell on Kindle and the Amazon store. So I engage you, of course, to first of all to subscribe to this video channel here, and also to the upcoming channels, podcasting channels. But I engage you, of course, to buy this ebook when it will be sold on Amazon. So directories, and the most interesting directory is App Store. But to publish on the App Store, why? Because you have to publish, in fact, not in the mind of publishing in specific directories, but to publish for specific machine, for specific tools. Let's say that the specific tool now, the tool that is getting into a boom is the iPad. Okay, so the iPad is really in a boom. So we have to publish our magazine for the iPad, because iPad consumers will consume magazines in the App Store. So you see, that's why we are wishing to publish into the App Store. So now let's talk about audio, because audio is really one of the funniest, the amazing thing in the world. Why? Because when you are putting some audio in the form of MP3 and definitely what we call podcast, when you put some podcasts on your web magazine pages, well, then something very special happens, because people can listen to podcasts without reading to your magazine. But having the information, consuming the information in an audio way is much more easier, because they can do that while driving, while commuting, while driving in their cars, while making some sport in the gym, while let's say to walking the dog. While they do everything, they can just put their MP3 and their earplugs, earphones, and listen to the podcast. And that's the purpose, of course, of it, if your podcast refers to your web magazine and to something that they're interested in, where you just give them the opportunity to consume the information in another way, same information or complemented information in another way. And that is really, really interesting. Now, about podcasting. Well, first of all, before podcasting, before doing everything, in fact, before doing anything, let's say before having the idea of publishing a web magazine, you need to have an idea. You have to know what about you would like to speak, what you would like to share with the people. So, and then put this onto an MP3 format. So you record it with a recorder or with your computer, your iPhone, or I don't know what everything you want. And when you have the MP3, this is the basics of all the podcasting. But what you would have to do with this MP3 is to put it in a file host, to a file hoster, because you won't keep this MP3 on your computer. It will be too powerful to share this from your computer, from the hard disk of your computer. So you have to put it on internet somewhere in at a hoster. So this is very important. It's to put it on a file hosting company. The second important thing is that you need a URL. You need a domain name, because you won't be able to share this MP3 on the format of a podcast. You won't be able to share it if you don't have your own domain name, your own internet site. But first of all, before an internet site, you need a domain name. So it's what we call the URL. So let's say, for example, that you are interested in motorcycle, and you say, okay, this is the URL I would choose is, for example, mybestmotorcycle.com. Okay, and this is a URL. So this is an address. There is, at this point, nothing behalf an address. You don't have nothing except an address. So that's the first thing you need to do to buy in such a way. It's an address. So when you have your address, and I will engage you to take .info address, because .info are 3 to 4 times cheaper than .com, and so it's a way to earn some money, in a way of speaking, that it's cheaper to take a .info. But when you have your URL, your address, it has to point somewhere. It has to point it has to point on a hoster, on a web hoster. So you understand here that the web hoster may be different than the place where you bought the URL. What is, in my case, it's the fact. But so you have to point this address in a way of thinking and on a part of the hard drive of a hosting company. So it's the only way you will have to build up an internet site. So you point your address on a web hosting company, and there choose the web hosting company that have a cPanel. Why is the cPanel so important? Because the cPanel will allow you to get some tools that will allow you to build up an internet site on the space that you have on the web hosting, in the web hosting company. So you have the URL, it's an address pointing to a part of the disk of the web hosting company, the hard drive of the web hosting company. On this hard drive you have a cPanel that is written on it, where you can access to, and you can, with the help of this cPanel, put some tools on this space of the disk of the web hosting company. And what will we choose? We will choose WordPress, because WordPress is the most wonderful tool to build up an internet site from nothing. So with this WordPress, we will be able to access to the WordPress admin part of our site. That will allow us to really build up our internet site from nothing to whatever you would want to have. So we could also put on our internet site some tools, specific tools for what podcasting tools, and that we call plugin. And we could put some plugin onto our site that will allow us to go and fetch the MP3 that we put in the files hosting company and to bring it back to our site, so that we could, by adding some information to this MP3, we could make from this MP3, well, we could make from this MP3 that we just brought up from the file hosting company, we can make it a wonderful podcast. And this podcast, we could bring this podcast then to iTunes, because iTunes is the directory of the directory where everybody wants to have his podcast. Why? Because a lot of people are coming to iTunes just to consume podcasts. So I say consuming, I'm not say paying for, what is also possible, but I won't suggest you to make your podcast pay podcast. But I suggest you to bring in your podcast enough information to interest the people to buy a web magazine where the rest of the information is shared. Okay, so that's the way to catch people for your web magazine. Directories, and the directory of the directory is, of course, iTunes. And the people, when they are coming to iTunes, what are they doing when they click on the on your podcast? They are brought back to your internet site, and they are listening from your internet site the podcast, and so they can download it, they can share it with others, they can do a lot of things, they can write a comment on it, and blah blah blah. So everything is possible. So that's the way of working with podcasts and iTunes. And so now, next video, I will take my URL, and the video afterwards I will put my site, my internet site on work. We'll bring it up on the internet, and so you will see how to do this. It's very, very simple. And the video afterwards, I will show you how to put your MP3 in file hosting company and bring it back into your internet site to put it in the form of a podcast, and to bring it to iTunes, where they have to, of course, to approve it first. But that's an old process that I will explain later on. So have a wonderful day. Don't forget to subscribe to this channel, video channel on YouTube, and try to find me also on iTunes. I have already a podcast up and running, but it isn't from the site that you will see. It's but everything will be changed, of course, when I have my new site. And don't forget to send me an email at yourwebmagazine in one word at outlook.com. I will be glad to respond to you, and I wish you a very, very good day. See you, and bye bye. See you soon.